If it's mandatory for the players, it's mandatory for us too.
Yeah, that's definitely true. What would happen? We get fined?
Yeah, it's actually in our collective bargaining agreement. You get fined per day, and it increases as the week goes on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Glad I was there.
Don't do that. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. Reuben Frank, Dave Zangaro. Just back from the NovaCare Complex, we got to watch the first practice, the first mandatory minicamp practice of the Nick Sirianni era.
Since 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Doug had him every year. Yeah.
We probably weren't watching in 2020. The world was shut down then.
Yeah, you're right. There weren't any in 2020. Remember, we were there for training camp in our little boxes. They had like chalk boxes, and we couldn't leave that little spot.
So our last mandatory minicamp would have been 2019.
Yeah, 5 years. How have you managed?
Yeah, it hasn't been easy. Today was fun, though. It was fun to get out there. Eagles had pretty good attendance. One guy not there, Landon Dickerson, but it was an excused absence. So
that's what they're saying.
Yeah, I don't think they'd lie about that.
He had grass to cut.
Yeah, so hopefully everything's all right with him. But he was the only guy on the 90-man roster.
I think Nick said it was something he mentioned it months ago. So
okay, good. Yeah, so it was fun to watch a mandatory practice. It wasn't very long. It was about
surprisingly
an hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah, I thought it'd be about an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. They have 2 more this week, so maybe we'll see longer. Probably not. It's hot out there. I mean, it's probably, we were talking about it before we went out. I mean, these practices are as hot or if not hotter than training camp, just because like the temperature is warm right now, and training camp practices, at least traditionally, have been in the morning.
Yeah, we were out there. I guess they started around 1:30, 1:30, and it was in the high 80s. It wasn't awful, but it was warm. There's usually a couple of days in training camp that by the end of practice it's up around 90, but yeah, I don't think they mind when it's a little steamy out there.
It depends on who you ask.
I mean the coaches.
The coaches don't mind. Yeah.
I think they like it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have any other way to do this other than like jumping into the observations. And a little bit later, we did talk to some players and Nick Sirianni. We talked to some assistant coaches on Monday to start the week. So we have some other notes, but I think it makes sense to just go ahead and start with the observations from practice.
Let's get after it.
Okay, so we'll talk about James Bradberry in a little bit, but he was at practice today. We're looking forward to seeing him do some drills, and then an individual, he got hurt, and he actually didn't really even get to practice today.
I think he's really hurt.
He fell.
Yeah, he fell. Bad timing. Went to the medical tent, came back out without his helmet, didn't practice again. We'll see what happens. He goes on IR tomorrow. No, I mean, it didn't look super serious, but it was just bad timing.
Or good timing.
I guess it
depends on
your perspective.
Some other loose ends here. Sidney Brown's still not practicing. He's in street clothes, but he's been working out, watching.
Not street
practice.
Clothes. I mean, he's not like wearing a suit and tie.
Is that what you wear on the street?
Yeah, I like to get dressed up when I'm going to walk around the neighborhood. But, I was really impressed. I was watching him a little bit. He is so locked in out there. It's kind of cool to see him, pre-snap. I mean, he's like intently watching the play develop. It's really interesting. You see guys out there taking mental reps. They'll talk about mental reps. But he's on the field. I mean, he's not on the sideline. He's on the field like 30 yards back. And he's really into it. It's kind of cool to see.
He is. He's like taking his drops. And yeah. Let me ask you this. What percentage of it, this is just the skeptic in me, is a little performative?
With that kid, I don't know.
I don't think it is. I think he really is going through it, but not a bad idea. Young players, you're watching or you're hurt, go ahead and make it look like you're really into it.
You really are a skeptic. Knowing Sidney, I think it's genuine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly genuine.
Okay.
But you're right. He really, and we saw this at OTAs too. He's been kind of in that deep post safety, like he's all the way like 40 yards, 30 yards down the field, just intently watching practice. Yeah. It's good to see. Hopefully they get him back in training camp.
Yeah, I think there's a chance. There's a pretty good chance.
I do too. Jacob Harris, the receiver, not practicing. He got hurt sometime during OTAs. He was not out there the second of the 2 sessions. we saw. So he was there, but watching, a long shot guy that becomes a longer shot.
Yeah.
Raven Clark was actually out there. He's on IR, so he's done for the year, but he's on a rollabout. He has a foot in a boot, but kind of cool that he's just doesn't have to be out there.
No, I mean, he was a practice squad guy last year. He's a futures contract guy. I don't know how it works contract wise, because he doesn't really have a contract. I guess minimum. But he'll get some money for getting hurt. But I like LaRaven. He's a good guy. I talked to him last year because Jordan Mailata was talking about how he's like, you guys don't think about the guys on the practice squad, but he said LaRaven has been so big for me.
He knows not to say that to me. I think I spent a lot of time thinking about the guys on the practice squad.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's probably true. But no, he was just talking about Jordan Mailata was just talking about how much he pushes him and how much he's helped him, and they do work on the side after practice, and it was cool to hear. It's not what I expected. So he does have a role here. Hasn't played in several years, but you wish him well with that injury.
Yeah, let's get into some depth chart stuff. We'll start on offense, and this was very notable to me today. No Landon Dickerson at left guard. So you're thinking, like, who fills in at guard? They have some options. They have Hennessy. I know they just got Max Sharping in the building. It's probably a lot to ask him to just go out there and learn it and play it. But, they just drafted a couple of interior players. Nope. Mekhi Becton at left guard today.
Yeah, and Stout was just talking on, was it Monday, about how he was more versatile than he realized when he came in here, and there he is at guard. I think, who was it? Lane was talking about how smart he is and how impressed he's been by him. So I think, and I think you wrote about this in your obs, that this coaching staff seems to be more amenable to having swing guys, backups on the O-line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, you look at that, it makes sense. If he's the second best left guard and the second best right tackle, back up both spots. And it's been interesting to see him. And then when Lane is talking about how big he is, a guy's big. When Lane Johnson says, well, he's huge, he's really big. Yeah,
Becton is very big. Early in his career, he got the reputation. I think it's probably fair to say he earned the reputation of being like a left tackle only player. It seemed like early in his career with the Jets, it was kind of, he's just a left tackle. But to see him already in the practices we've seen, he's been a right tackle and left guard.
Yeah, and I think sometimes going to your second team triggers something in guys. It's like
you're no longer that first round pick.
No longer the first round pick, and no longer on that rookie contract, and no longer have anything guaranteed to you. So they want me to play guard. I'm playing guard. And I think when you're on the street, it has a way of kind of influencing your next decisions.
Yeah. And then
on the street for quite a while.
Sure. And like kind of with Becton, Fred Johnson was the second team right tackle today. He was the backup left tackle last year. So I assume Becton is just going to be the backup swing this year, but I think it's wise to get Fred to be ready to play a swing tackle role too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and we talked about this before they brought Becton, and I mean, that was backup tackle was a real concern. And I like Fred, and he's played some in the league, but I think Mekhi Becton certainly is an upgrade. And if he can handle both tackle spots, not to mention guard, you feel really a lot better about the depth on the O-line.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not many other notes on offense. Obviously, Devontae Smith was there. We didn't get to see him at the 2 OTA sessions that were open to reporters, but he was back, obviously, for mandatory camp. He's out there with A.J. Brown, and they rotated a little bit after that, but Paris Campbell, as we kind of suspected, was the third guy for the most part.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah, for now. But that's, we're in now. So.
We're in now.
Yeah.
We're in now. But when we're not in now,
we're in later.
When we're in later, I don't think it'll be Paris Campbell, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. On defense, no James Bradberry in the mix, so we don't know where he was going to line up and with which team.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a good thing because we got to see what this looks like without him right now. Slay was at left cornerback. They had Kelee Ringo at right cornerback. Avonte Maddox got the first crack at the nickel spot.
Yeah, we talked to Avante today about his versatility, and I think he knows. Look, he's been around the league a long time. He got cut not that long ago and came back, and he knows that he's got to be versatile to get a roster spot. His best chance of making the 53 is if he can do a lot of different things. So he seemed really amenable to whatever it is, whether it's outside corner, whether it's safety, whether it's back in the slot where he's played most of his career. I like his attitude.
Yeah, I think it's the attitude you kind of have to have if you're him. So he was playing kind of first team nickel, but then he got second team safety reps, and I think he even moved back at first team a little bit. We saw some Tyler Hall in there at nickel with the first team as well.
Yeah.
No surprises with the safeties. Still Reed Blankenship and C.J. Gardner-Johnson with the first squad. Zach Bond still with that first team next to Devin White, mostly.
Yeah, mostly. Nakobe Dean got in there a little bit.
Yeah, he was mostly second team, though.
Yeah. A little surprised about that. Maybe it's just he's still not 100%. He's bringing back slowly. And nothing against Zach Bond. Maybe he's going to have a great year. Maybe he'll be a starter. But don't you have to get Nakobe? Doesn't he have to get that shot at it? Maybe not.
I don't know. At some point, you would think.
Yeah. But at that point, I mean, the fact that they're mixing and matching and he's getting some look there tells you he's in the mix. But if it was me, I'd give him all the snaps with the ones right now. You got to find out what he can do. And you can't find that out if Zach Bond's playing.
Yeah. What do you make of the Zach Bond thing? We've talked about it a little bit. What do you make of that in general?
Vic Fangio, there's something about Zach Bond that Vic Fangio likes. And we talked to Zach Bond today. Today's Tuesday. And he said he feels really comfortable there. He feels comfortable at inside linebacker. He feels comfortable whatever he's asked to do, rushing the passer, outside. I mean, his thing is, and he said he didn't even talk to the Eagles about this when he signed here, that he just wanted an opportunity to play. And he didn't care where it was. So he seems to think he can play anywhere. Vic seems to like him.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to me.
It is.
The whole thing. We asked him about, like, I asked him if he was disappointed in a way, because
he looked at you askance.
I know. And like, I understand that, like, that might seem weird because theoretically he has a better shot to make the team and have a role as an off-ball linebacker. But
he told us when we talked to him, that's what he wants to do.
He wants to rush the passer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and really, like, you look at his career with the Saints, and it wasn't until they let him get on the edge and rush a little bit that he really started to at least, like, show some of the reasons they drafted him so high. So I don't know. It's kind of surprising to me that he's still getting most of those first team looks.
Yeah. I thought we'd see him out there with the ones until Nakobe was cleared, and then we'd see Nakobe. I just thought it was that simple. But again, it could be Nakobe hasn't done anything since November, so it could be that they just want to bring him along slowly, and we'll see. Yeah,
it was Nakobe and Oren Burks with the second team, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Ben Van Sumeren with the third team there. And we should mention, I guess, Quinyon Mitchell, second team outside cornerback with Isaiah Rodgers. They had Cooper DeJean working the nickel there. And then third team was Josh Jobe out there. That's all I think I had for the depth chart stuff.
Yeah.
I do want to mention one kind of cool thing we saw today was both Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean got reps as sort of like a dime linebacker, where they're the sixth defensive back on the field. Not surprising to see Cooper DeJean do that. A little surprised to see Quinyon Mitchell do that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think if there's one difference between, and this is really true on both sides of the football, between this year and last year, they're going to put people everywhere and see how they do. And I mean, I don't think we'll see that. I don't think we'll see that in the regular season.
Well,
maybe we will.
With Cooper DeJean, I could see that.
Yes.
I mean, I think Quinyon's going to be a starting outside corner.
I do too.
But with Cooper, like, that might be a fun way to get him on the field, even if he's the starting nickel, to then have a guy like Avonte Maddox be able to slide into the nickel. Then you kind of make Cooper that dime linebacker, and you had I think there's something to that.
Yeah, there could be. And it's funny because Fangio was talking about how he doesn't like to overload young guys, and he likes to find them one position and practice that and get good at that. And they're doing the opposite. I mean, guys are lining up everywhere.
Do you think that speaks to the players themselves, or do you think it just speaks to Vic just saying whatever?
I don't think Vic would do it with these guys if they couldn't handle it mentally.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think he would. And they seem to be handling it.
I saw Cooper get some outside reps too.
What are you drinking?
Kombucha.
I left my water in the car.
Is that making you jealous to watch me?
Yeah, because
take a sip of something?
My water is going to be like 1,000 degrees. There's nothing worse than hot water. I mean, if you're making tea or something, it's fine. But like a bottle of water that's hot, and like you take a big swig out of it, you get this like hot water. It's awful.
Yeah, I agree. It's gross.
Yeah.
You know what I've started doing? My car has the automatic start,
yeah.
Or like with the fob. I only ever used to think about doing that in the winter, like to warm up the car.
Yeah.
Do it in the summer.
Yeah.
I started doing that recently. Never really crossed my mind to do it.
Well,
but it's nice because, sometimes you leave your car in the hot like this. We were in a wide open parking lot. There's no shade. So
no shade. I remember Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix, it gets so hot there, as you know. They would have your car running with the air on, your rent-a-car at the Hertz lot. Yeah. So you just get in, it'd be like you load your bags up and you get in the car. It was so nice and cool. Anyway,
I like that.
Yeah.
One of my big takeaways today was Kelee Ringo.
Yeah.
Getting starter reps opposite Slay and looking the part.
He had a really good day.
He did. And there were a few plays I'll highlight. One was deep coverage on Paris Campbell. I mean, he was just with him step for step, turned his head, found the ball, timed his jump, just textbook play from Kelee Ringo. That was his best play, but he also had, it was kind of a subtle play on John Ross, just gave him a little bump and kind of threw off the timing of that play. Jalen Hurts you could tell Jalen Hurts just wanted the air one out. It kind of been like a boring practice.
Yeah.
And he just kind of unleashed a deep ball. And that's probably the right idea with John Ross. Just throw it as far as he can. But I thought Kelee made a savvy play there. And even the one pass he gave up was to A.J. Brown on a comeback. Good coverage. Like, it wasn't like A.J. is just going to do that the most. Like, that's there for him all the time because he's so big. But I thought Kelee Ringo played it pretty well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it was an impressive catch by A.J. because, I mean, his hands are so strong, and just seeing him bring it in traffic. But I was impressed with Kelee. I feel like we're talking about a different fast young corner every day.
Mm-hmm.
And they have some, this time last year, Kelee wasn't even in the mix. But I mean, he's still so young. I thought he looked really good on those two snaps you mentioned. I mean, he just looked confident. He looked sure of himself. He looked fast. I mean, those are two pretty fast guys, and he was right there with them.
Yeah, and I think it shows you, it was a good glimpse into the depth chart today because we were at the two OTA practices. In the first practice, Ringo wasn't there.
Right.
So we didn't, and when Isaiah Rodgers was with the first team. And in the second practice, Slay wasn't there. So it was Rodgers and Ringo. Today we saw, I think Ringo's just ahead of Isaiah Rodgers.
Yeah, who also had made some plays today as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah, that's not a knock on him, but
yeah.
I think it's clear that Ringo's ahead of him.
Yeah, I think that's, after today, that's pretty obvious.
And the thing with Ringo is he's kind of a wild card a little bit. He was a 4th-round pick, and that's like a little asterisk with the 4th-round pick last year.
Asterisk.
What did I say?
Like asterisks. Asterisks.
Yeah.
Alex, what did you say? Asterisks?
Do you think that was worthy to grind the,
I really do.
The show to us?
If I'd said it, you would have stopped everything and like sent out a press release that I'd said asterisks. But anyway, but he's really a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, they gave up a 3rd-rounder for him. And I know that like the pre-draft type doesn't really matter. It only matters where you get drafted. But he was a guy that we thought might be a 1st-rounder. He has those types of tools. I thought he performed well last year, late in the season when they called on him to do so. Yeah. And even if he's not a starter this year, it doesn't mean he's not a key piece to this puzzle next year, the year after. He's actually younger than Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was what did we decide last year? Or what did we determine last year? That he was the youngest defensive starter in Eagles history or something like that? Or that he was definitely the youngest player ever to intercept a pass in Eagles history. The oldest is Chuck Bednarik.
How old was he?
He was 36. It was in 1962 against the Steelers.
So could BG break his record this year?
He could. He gets a pick. Does BG have any picks in his career?
I don't know.
Nice to see him get one. I don't know if he does. Yeah.
But, you know, it's possible that Quinyon Mitchell could be the James Bradberry replacement this year. And Kelee Ringo could end up being the Darius Slay replacement next year.
He doesn't like Darius Slay. It's certainly possible. I mean, the important thing is they have so much more talent. Like, when last year began, their only young corner, like, who was in the mix on defense was Josh Jobe. And now they have, you know, Quinyon Mitchell, and they have Cooper DeJean, and they have Isaiah Rodgers, and they have Kelee Ringo. That's quite a difference.
Yeah. And I think there's a really good chance that the core could be Mitchell, Ringo, and Cooper DeJean for like a long time.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
No matter, you're right. It doesn't like necessarily matter how it shakes out there. Maybe Cooper ends up as a starter outside, and maybe Ringo doesn't pan out or whatever. But it seems like they're in a pretty good place going forward. And
kudos to Howie for getting to that place when not too long ago they were in a really bad place with outside corners.
Yeah, it's, you know, they really like the idea of having a stable of young corners. They just had ones that weren't very good.
Yeah, like they've tried this before.
They had, you remember a couple of years ago, they had the Kerry Vincents and Tay Gowans, and you know, there were a bunch of those types of players.
Who was the guy who came in the Ertz trade? Was that
Tay Gowan?
Yeah. Tay Gowan. Sorry, Tay.
Yeah. But these guys are obviously a little different. Those were all like either late round picks or kind of guys that were just taking flyers on, whereas this year it's kind of headlined by significant draft picks.
BG does not have any career interceptions, by the way.
Okay.
He did force a fumble once. You may have read about it. He actually forced 21 fumbles. And 2 more in the postseason. 23 forced fumbles. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how long Slay, I mean, what if this is his last year here?
Very possible.
Very possible.
Yeah. That I don't think that would surprise anyone if this is his last year.
It certainly wouldn't surprise Slay.
Yeah, he's talked about not having many years left in general. Now, the Eagles could be in a situation where they're just ready to move on, and he might want to keep playing. I guess they'll cross that bridge when they get to it. But I think that's very possible. At some point, you're going to want to get all these kids on the field.
Yeah, and it's tough because I think Slay's still pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I thought he had a good year last year.
Yeah, and he wasn't even healthy.
It was very unfair to him that he kept getting lumped in with Bradberry last season.
It was.
There was that dork with the trash cans. He had one labeled Bradberry and one labeled Slay. Like, Slay had to see that and be like, don't put me with him.
Who was that?
There was some dork that went out to the NovaCare. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
That's probably better.
No, Slay was not healthy last year. He's alluded to the knee was really bothering him. But yeah, 1, 2, 3, 6 Pro Bowls. He's not really a Hall of Fame candidate. 28 interceptions is low. Although the interception numbers in general
are very down. It might take a while for everyone like kind of recalibrate with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when there's guys who, Eric Allen had 59, and he can't get in. But Slay's really good, and this could be it for him. I would guess it would be his last year here.
Yeah, it's a little tricky to figure out, but I think that's definitely possible. At that other, I know this is unfair right now, but the other starting spot, percentage-wise, it's Quinyon, we'll go Quinyon, Ringo, or other.
I still think Quinyon is a little more likely than Kelee Ringo.
Yeah.
And I don't think Isaiah Rodgers is out of that picture either. So I would say maybe
like 60, 30, 10?
No, I was going to go more like, probably more like 55, 30, 15.
Okay, yeah.
So,
It is scary when I ask you to do math, huh? You start to panic.
I feel like Chip. I was told there'd be no math.
That's all I had on the defensive backs.
Yeah. But I think really that we've been out there 3 days now, and that's the one thing that's struck me the most is just the talent they have at that position that they didn't have last year.
On defense, certainly. On offense, I feel comfortable now 3 practices in saying that this offense is going to look pretty different this year.
Yeah.
And right now, I think the defense is a little ahead of the offense, and I think that's just the offense kind of catching up and figuring out the terminology, and that doesn't look like they're really playing fast just yet. But you can see that like there's differences that they're kind of sorting through, whether it's motion or formations. Like it's a little more exotic than it was last year when it was like stagnant and kind of playing a lot of times.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I mean, they're changing everything. So they've had 7 practices now in 3 weeks. So it's going to take some time. And they've been they've been blunt about that. Like, this is going to take time. And you just hope by opening day they're ready, but they're changing a lot. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. It's refreshing, even for me, just watching practice.
Yeah.
To not see the same like 2x2 formations. Oh, there they go again. They're lined up the way they're lined up. But like seeing some bunch and seeing like some more spread looks. Like we saw some today where they had Saquon spread out wide left, or like Kenny Gainwell, then they motioned back into the formation. Like stuff like that they would do like every once in a great while.
Yeah.
Under the Sirianni offense. It seems like it's going to have its place in this offense more.
And we'll talk about the interviews, but I think Devontae alluded to that today, and he didn't say a lot, but he said enough to make you realize that he was really frustrated last year.
Yeah, and he's the guy that when they hired Kellen Moore kind of stood out to me as someone who could really benefit from a scheme change.
Yeah.
I think he's just been underutilized. Especially when you go back and watch what he did at Alabama. I mean, they used him in so many different ways that to kind of just plug and play him in this stale offense, which I think sometimes we get a little overboard because it was still a pretty productive offense at times, but I don't think
at the end it wasn't.
Not at the end. I don't think it maximized Devontae's skills.
You're not really talking about touches or targets. You're talking about just the way he's used.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think they've just scratched the surface with what he can do on a football field.
Yeah. I would agree.
But do you agree with me that through the 3 practices we've seen, which is a very small sample size, and I get that, do you feel kind of confident that it's going to look pretty different?
I don't think there's any question.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple special teams. What?
Thank God it'll look different.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were saying thank God because I had some special teams notes.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited about that.
First one was the punt returners today. Britton Covey, Anais Smith, Isaiah Rodgers, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Cooper DeJean. Do you want to mention Anais Smith kind of, even if he's not a full participant, he's doing team stuff now, which is a good sign.
Yeah. Might be the first time I've ever seen Britton Covey muff a punt.
He muffed a punt.
Well, in games, he's done it. He never does it in practice.
Yeah, he muffed a punt, did push-ups, and then the next one from Anais Smith, I forget who I was standing next to. I was like, uh-oh, the window's open for Anais, and then it was awful. It like bounced off his shoulder.
Yeah, it was a bad one.
He dropped down and did some push-ups too. Gardner-Johnson back there, fielding one. Cooper DeJean, who we already knew was in the mix. He was actually working on the punt team, and then he ran all the way down the other side and hopped in on this drill. Is still Covey's job?
Yeah.
Okay. And then they worked on kind of a pin the offense deep drill.
That was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch. It was competitive, and Nick Sirianni lost his mind.
He did.
Just yelling. He made them like do extra reps, which is kind of rare for him, especially because the entire team had started to like congregate to get ready to do 11 on 11s for the first time in minicamp. And he's like, no, 2 more. We got to get this right. And then Josh Jobe had maybe the best play of the day.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Arguably the best play of practice. He's such a good gunner, and he has good awareness of those types of plays. How far do you think he jumped into the end zone through the air? Probably a good 4 or 5 yards.
3 yards, I was going to say, but
okay.
Yeah, pretty deep.
I'm going to push it a little, embellish it a little. No one saw it. No, it was a great play by him. Pinned him, I think, at the 4 or 5 yard line. If he's going to make this team, it's going to be because of that.
Yeah. I mean, he's still facing an uphill battle, I think.
I do too.
But that kind of play, I mean, he's always been a good special teamer. That stuff definitely gets noticed.
The Wild Stallion. That's his nickname.
Oh, really? I didn't know he had a nickname.
Well, if you read my work from last year, you would have known that. Are you telling me you don't read all my special team stories?
All 1,700 of them?
That's the Michael Clay nickname, the Wild Stallion.
Okay.
For Josh Jobe.
My favorite Michael Clay nickname is Bonesy.
Oh, for Fossil?
Fossil, yeah.
Yeah.
And we didn't know who he was talking about at first. He
Yeah.
just kept saying, I learned a lot from Bonesy. What? I thought he was talking about like Dr. McCoy on Star Trek or something.
And then it was funny because the play after the
I'm
Jobe
a doctor, Jim, not a special teams coach.
The play. I love that all your references are like
shows that were from 50 years ago.
Yeah, shows that no one has seen in the last 40 years.
You don't think people watch Star Trek religiously?
40 years ago.
No, people watch Star Trek all the time.
What do you think the crossover is? Star Trek to Eagle Eye viewers?
Pretty high.
Okay.
I think it's really high. No, I don't know.
And then the next play was Quinyon Mitchell, and he really flubbed up.
He did.
He was like 5 yards in the end zone.
He got all tangled up.
Yeah, the good news for him is he's probably not going to be on the punt team very much.
Nick yelled at us. We should mention that. I walk on the field and Nick's like, Rube, why are you asking about guys dropping back? This is 7. We're doing 7 on 7. I'm like, what are you talking about? It wasn't me. He's like, Dave, was that you? It's like, Rube, who was it?
I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. No. Nick, I think I missed a play because Nick was yelling at me.
He was, yeah.
Go back to coach of the team, Nick. Leave me alone.
It was mock anger. It
was not real anger.
It was not real anger. I don't think, but it was fun.
It might have been kind of covering up real anger.
He was trying to get me to dime out one of my colleagues, which I really wouldn't have any problem doing
if you knew who it was.
If I knew who it was, and if they all weren't standing right there. So
there was an interception today. Devin White. It was a ball that Reed Blankenship got it in there and deflected. It was Devontae Smith in the slot, kind of ran a slant. Wasn't the best pass. It was. I thought more of a nice play by Reed Blankenship getting in there. And that's the one thing with Devontae. Like, I think there are reasons to get him in the slot. Sometimes running the slant like that, you worry. Not that he doesn't play bigger, but there are some bigger players in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can outmuscle.
Yeah. And that's something we saw when Blankenship was playing well, like 2 years ago in the first half of last year. He would get his hands on balls all the time and bat them up in the air and, make plays that way. He wasn't doing that late in the season. Mm-hmm. So it was good to see.
I don't have much else here. I thought Grant Calcaterra had a nice day. He was busy.
Yeah, it was funny because Nick mentioned him. He was asked about third wide receiver, and he was the first name he brought up.
Yeah, I think his point was that fifth skill player doesn't necessarily have to be a receiver.
Right.
And that's how his brain went to Grant Calcaterra, which I chuckled. And then we got to practice, and Grant Calcaterra is all over the field.
All over the field. Yeah. So that was interesting. But he did have a good day.
Anything else?
No, I mean, I thought Pickett should have hit Gainwell on that.
Yeah, it was a deep wheel route to from Pickett to Gainwell. He had Ben Van Sumeren. He had a couple steps on him.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Ben Van Sumeren can't cover Kenny Gainwell. Come on. Kenny ran a nice route. I mean, he would have caught it, but couldn't put it there.
Seen some up and down play from Pickett so far. Nothing to worry about, but
yeah, I think he's, he was this far ahead of Hurts, but I think he's only this far ahead. It's a joke. It's just a joke.
Yeah, there was one play I noted in my observations. John Ross, it was a crosser, and he must have had like 3 yards to get both feet in, and his momentum took him out of bounds. So, man, that's a play a veteran should make.
Yeah, that struck me the same way.
Yeah. He had a step, everything's a nice play. It's a great catch in college and doesn't count here.
Yeah.
That's all. I got Raz today because the football came to me.
Oh.
And normally my rule is like I'm not touching the football because then I got to throw it back. But today it comes to me, it's like it hits me. So all right, I pick it up. I have my notebook and my phone in my right hand, so I have it in my left hand. And an Eagles staffer, I won't say who, but someone who's high up in the pecking order, I throw it back, but I throw it left-handed underhand. I'm tossing it back. He gives me crap for it. I throw.
Really?
Yeah. And then like 2 minutes later, another ball rolls right to me. I'm holding this football. No one's coming to get it, and I'm worried that someone's going to make me throw this ball far. Then I handed it to a PR staffer. All right, let's take a break.
It's a busy day for you.
It was a busy day. Let's take a break. We have plenty more on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. So we didn't get to see James Bradberry do anything other than individual drills, but had he been out there in team drills, apparently we would have seen him at safety a little bit.
Yeah, and what do you make of that? Nick told us at his presser when asked about Bradberry, I said, you're going to see him at safety, and we're really excited about it. We're really excited he can't play corner anymore. Guy was an all-pro 2 years ago. So it was kind of an odd the way it came out and the way it all happened. It kind of makes sense. It's a nothing to lose type thing. Maybe you make him more tradable.
That was my first reaction was
he's not playing safety for this team.
Yeah. Like, hey, rest of the NFL, look at all these things James Bradberry can do. Look how valuable he is to us.
Yeah. Nick's first 3 words when asked about Bradberry were versatile, versatile, versatile.
You're like the guy who's been your starting outside cornerback for the last 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
although in fairness, we did see Bradberry in the slot a little bit last summer.
We did. We
know that there's kind of an emphasis on that all around right now.
True.
In the secondary.
But I mean, how many outside corners, if he was healthy and it was at corner, he'd be behind Slay, both rookies, Ringo.
Yeah. Well, that's Rodgers. The really tricky thing is that like this coaching staff, especially like the Nick Sirianni part of it, has always shown this deference to veterans. I think it's just tough to not have Bradberry out there with the starters, but you can't do that because you have to get other guys reps.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So I would guess he would have been out there. I mean, they don't have much depth at safety.
He probably would have been the second team safety.
He would have been second team safety.
Him and either McCollum or Avante. Maybe they move Avante to third team so we can get a breather between first team nickel and third team safety. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think Avante has a chance to make the team. You want to get him some reps.
So just have over Bradberry and Avante.
Yeah, I would think.
Mekhi Gardner's in that mix too.
Yeah.
He got some second team reps.
So it's really 3 corners who are now safeties because, I mean, Avante's not a safety, but is working at safety. Mekhi Gardner's made that switch. Nick compared James Bradberry to Charles Woodson. Yesterday, we compared Tyler Steen to Brandon Brooks. Tomorrow we're going to compare Will Greer to, Joe Montana. But Charles Woodson when it was 36 when he changed from corner to safety. He had made 8 Pro Bowls and had 54 interceptions in his career. First ballot Hall of Famer. So a little bit different, but the thinking is sometimes when corners get older, they slow down a little, but they still have ball skills. And at safety, the lack of speed doesn't hurt him as much. And if he's a physical guy that he can handle it, I don't know what's going to happen. I still think Howie's going to trade him. I think he'll probably play a lot of safety and practice, and if he's healthy by then, and try to trade him.
This is our first show after June 1st.
Yeah.
So it does change things a little bit with Bradberry. If the Eagles were to trade or release him, basically they can split up the dead cap money over this season, and most of it now will push into next year, which is
70% of it next year.
Yeah, which is always more palatable. So
because the cap's bigger.
Yeah. And you have time to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think it's more likely that they move on from him now at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was since last year ended, I just didn't think there's any chance he'd be here, but he's still here.
At what point?
One thing I want to say, go ahead.
I was going to say, at what point, if he's on the team, will you start to think he'll actually be on the team?
I mean, we've seen guys get traded late August.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say September 5th.
Okay.
When's the Packers game? September 5th, 6th.
I don't know.
That day, that Friday. Until then, I won't believe it. I could be wrong. But I just want to say, we've been really hard on Bradberry. He did not play well last year, but he's a class act. And
I don't think you could do this with a guy who wasn't.
Yeah, you're right. He's a class act. He's accountable. He knows he did not play well last year, and who knows? Maybe this will work out for him.
September 6th, by the way.
September 6th. I think Jordan Matthews switching to tight end. When a veteran guy,
Taylor Hart switching to offensive tackle.
Yeah, it's not quite the same, but when guys have had success and all of a sudden you're changing positions, it rarely leads to good things.
What does it say about me that that's where my mind went first?
I really worry
Taylor
about you
Hart
sometimes.
switching from defensive tackle to offensive tackle.
I was thinking of Cecil Gray, who was a free agent offensive guard that the Eagles were trying to defensive tackle, I think, or the other way around in 1996. It's terrible.
We'll see. I'm still skeptical that he's going to be here.
Yeah.
But that's a good point though, because he is a good teammate. Doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would cause issues.
Yeah.
Because if he was, I don't think he'd be able to play these games right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, that's all I had about Bradberry. We'll see if he's on the field Wednesday and Thursday. If he is, very curious about where he lines up and with which team.
Yep.
We talked to Jeff Stoutland on Monday, my favorite person to talk to in that organization.
Yeah.
He really is. And it was our first chance talking to him since Kelsey's retirement. So it was cool to hear him kind of wax poetic about Kelsey a little bit, and kind of said he feels like he lost his partner in this thing. Because that was something, one of my favorite things was to talk to young offensive linemen about the offensive line room, because you have Kelsey and Stout and they kind of co-led it. And then Isaac kind of, when he was here, was able to have those high level conversations. But you talk to a young player, they're like, I don't even understand what the heck's going on in this room half the time, because those guys are having such high level football conversations.
Yeah, we've heard that. It's amazing. They're just on a different plane. It's crazy to think that, Kelsey was here before Stoutland.
Mm-hmm.
Played 2 years for Howard Mudd, another legend. But yeah, he was emotional, and it's the first time we've talked to him about it. Ashlyn Sullivan said it was her first press conference with Jeff Stoutland.
Oh, it's a lot.
Our Ashlyn Sullivan, she was in there and she was like, can we talk to him every day? It's incredible. Just, even if he's talking about I think I told you in Arizona, that last day of availability, we were talking about baseball for 20 minutes, and just him talking in that accent, about anything, like reading the phone book. It's great. That Queens, I guess is it Queens? He's from Queens or not Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens. I think it's Queens. I'm not sure, but anyway.
I think I'm about to name all 5 boroughs.
I think it's clearly a Kill Van Kull accent. But yeah, he was. It's great. I wish we got to talk to him more. We don't. He was really high on Tyler Steen. I alluded to, he compared him to Brandon Brooks, which kind of blew my mind. Brandon Brooks is as good as any right guard I've seen for those 3 years when he was healthy, and he was playing at such a high level. The Super Bowl year.
It's rare to have like a real difference maker at guard.
Yeah, Sean Andrews could have been that. He was that for a couple of years. First team All-Pro twice. But I mean, to compare for Stout, and Stout doesn't BS. I mean, he doesn't throw out stuff like that without knowing exactly what he's saying. So to hear him, issue that kind of lofty praise on a third-round pick with one career start was eye-opening for me.
And a guy who wasn't very good in that one start either,
and told us he didn't think he was very good. It tells you how far he's come. And look, I still don't know if this is going to work out, but certainly encouraging when the legendary position coach is that high on him. And he ran through all the stuff that he talked about how he's playing lower and he played too high last year and how much stronger he is. I think Lane echoed that today. He said how much stronger he is.
That was night and day from last year.
Yeah. So that's all good news. And look, this O-line is kind of trying to figure it out in the, year one post Kelsey. If Cam Jurgens can handle center and Tyler Steen can handle right guard just at an above average level, then with those other three guys, you're going to have a pretty darn good O-line.
Yeah, that's the thinking. And it's funny because this is the first time in how many years you've even had to think about it.
Right.
But you do. I mean, and you have to think about it a little bit, but I feel pretty confident that Jurgens is going to be at least an average center. Yeah. I think there's a relatively high floor for him. And then with Steen, we'll see. I've been a little more skeptical of him than I have been Jurgens, but there are things to like, and I will defer to Jeff Stoutland on it, certainly.
I'll defer to Stout on just about anything. He is from Staten Island.
Okay.
So is Rich Kotite, by the way. What if they know each other? It blows my mind that Jeff Stoutland was at Syracuse with Donovan. And he has an autographed picture of Donovan on his desk. Yeah, it's really cool.
He did, in talking about Kelsey, he gave a very cool glimpse into his offensive line room, though, and the way he runs it. And we've heard this before, but I don't remember him ever talking about his reasons for it as much as he did in this press conference. And basically, he wants his players to have some ownership in what they're running in the run game, especially. And so he kind of says they'll start a week and he'll go in and ask them for suggestions. They'll draw up stuff and they'll actually run it. And he kind of mentioned it, how much he's learned from players in his career, because you have to remember, we all think of him now as this great NFL position coach. This is his first NFL job.
Yeah.
He did everything in his career at the college level, and he comes to the NFL and he's mastered it. But he mastered it with some help, and Kelsey was one of those guys who helped him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's really funny how we think of these guys, and you forget that. I mean, he was fired from college jobs. I remember Jim Johnson's wife telling me that he'd been fired from 11 different jobs before he got here. We think of him as the greatest defensive coach ever, and Stout is the greatest offensive line coach ever. Man, it's a tough life.
Oh, yeah.
You just keep looking for the right situation, and you don't always get there.
And even if you get there, nothing's forever.
Yeah. I'm glad he's still here. There was a point where I thought he was going to retire.
I think he's still got some fire left.
Yeah, he is something else.
We talked to a few other position coaches. Clint Hurt, new defensive line coach. It was good hearing him kind of talk a little bit about Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. He said kind of what everyone said, but the position coach was saying about Jordan Davis is just that conditioning is number one. And he talked, this part piqued my interest, that it's not just about the physical part, it's about mentally and pushing yourself through the point of exhaustion coming out of the other side.
Yeah.
Kind of gives you a little glimpse into what they think some of the issues might be.
Yeah, that's a good point. And look, everyone's saying the right thing with those guys. It's going to come down to, and they're doing the right thing now. I mean, they both look good, but it's going to come down to maintaining it, and that's what didn't happen last year. So I feel like what they say and what Clint says in June is irrelevant. What's going to matter is can you stay in that kind of condition in November and December? Can you play 45 reps against the Cowboys if they need you to do that? And we'll see. It's the potential is limitless with those guys.
Yeah, and I think very different situations.
Different. I don't know, very different, but
yeah, maybe not very different. I think the conditioning is number one with Jordan Davis. I don't know if it's number one with Jalen Carter. It's up there. Like he's got to be able to play more this year.
Yeah,
without Fletcher.
Yeah, if Jordan Davis's drop off last year was conditioning related, what was Jalen's? What was Jalen Carter's?
Well, he was a rookie. I think it's a little different.
Hit the rookie wall. I mean, after playing at Georgia in that program, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's still a real thing.
Yeah, could be, but it's. I like Clint Hurt. They've had a lot of D-line coaches around here.
Mm-hmm. He's the biggest.
He is a big dude.
And they've had some other big guys, but Clint, big guy. He was a player in college and got hurt before his senior year.
Is that right?
Like kind of started his coaching career.
Sounds like a similar story to Jonathan Gannon.
Oh, Jonathan Gannon. Yeah, sure. I wonder if that's where you're going.
Yeah.
Doug Nussmeier.
Yeah.
New quarterbacks coach. Kind of curious about the dynamic between him and Jalen Hurts. And the quarterbacks coach position is so weird because he has other guys that are under him, but like it all kind of hinges on one player.
Yeah, and the head coach is a offensive coach, and the offensive coordinator is a quarterback. So there's a lot of voices in the room. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, he didn't say a whole lot. I'm really curious about the relationship. And Jalen's such a different kind of dude. Like you just come in. How long does it take to get to know him? Like how long does it take before he's opening up to you? Before he's speaking in the honest way that you have to with a position coach? I don't know. Obviously, he had a relationship with Brian Johnson, but it sounded like Nussmeier was confident and comfortable with where everything was.
Mm-hmm. Christian Parker as well, new defensive backs coach. He's an impressive young coach.
He really is.
I think they're renting that guy.
Get that feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Comes across really, really smart. Yeah. Well-spoken. Yeah. He's got some stuff to work with. Anything
from today that you wanted to highlight? I know we talked to a bunch of players, but
nothing really. We talked to Lane, and he talked about how motivated he is to play 17 games, to be there for his team every week, every game. He talked about he said he thought he might be near the end with that ankle.
Mm-hmm.
What did he have? 3 different surgeries?
I mean, that was like a 2-year deal.
It was more than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between the first surgery and the last. I mean, yeah, so he's in a good place. And I kind of led him on with the All-Pro. He didn't make All-Pro last year. Mm-hmm. I know that I didn't vote for him. So I felt kind of like, I don't know, unethical asking him about it. But Penei Sewell did. And he talked about how those guys, the top tackles, motivate them, even if they're not around, just trying to be as good as them.
Yeah. He didn't mention players by name, but he also said, there are guys who have played well in their mid-30s.
Yeah.
And we saw one here, Jason Peters for a while.
Yeah.
Played well. Andrew Whitworth certainly played well. Trent Williams is doing it now.
Yeah.
There are guys who
That's
played
a position you can do that. I mean, he could play 5 more years. What is he, 33?
He's 33.
Yeah. He play 5 more years.
I don't think he's playing 5 more
I don't
years.
think he would want to, but I'm just physically, I mean, if he can stay healthy, yeah.
Sure. Anything else there?
No, I don't think so. We talked to Devontae. Who else we talked to?
Did you say Devontae or Avante?
LaShawn or Deshaun?
I'm actually being serious. Which one did you say?
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith. We also talked to Avante Maddox.
We did.
A little bit about his weird offseason.
Yeah. And he's great. I like him. He's got a really good perspective on things.
He does. I think some people would have taken it like a little personal to get cut, then to have to come back at a reduced salary, but it doesn't seem like it's bothering him all that much.
Yeah, what was he asked?
If it was like a shot of his ego.
Yeah.
He's like,
I'm the same guy.
Yeah.
I was before I got cut. Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. See where he fits in. He could be anywhere from the slot to not on the team.
Yeah, there's a wide range of outcomes for him.
Yeah.
For sure.
And he's kind of a forgotten guy, but man, not many guys still around from 2018.
Mm-mm.
I don't know if he has an asterisk because he left for a while. I was trying the whole show to find a way to get asterisks in there. Dave is gonna like key my car before I get.
No, I'm just gonna make sure I always get you on those things from now on.
When we get to my car, there's gonna be a big black asterisk on it. No, because he got cut. How many guys are still here from 2018? BG, Lane,
Goddard, that class,
Gotti,
Mailata,
Jordan Mailata,
Sweaty.
Anyone else? Even Greg Ward's not here. Greg Ward never signed with a team, did he?
I don't think so.
I like Greg Ward. I think this is a better team when he's here. I can't really explain why.
Yeah.
I like him.
All right. Before we end here, we got a bunch of questions. We told you guys, if you're listening right now, it's eagleeye at nbcuni.com, nbcuni.com. There's the QR code on the screen. I just wanted to run through a few of these. Obviously, today we had a bunch to talk about, but in future episodes, we will certainly read a lot of these. But I have 3 today. First one is just from Reginald Owens. Love the show. Very informative. Thank you, Reginald.
Appreciate
that. Next one is from Will from York. Do you guys think we'll ever have a jersey number Hall of Fame instead of one player owning the number? Like a section somewhere that shows all the greats that wore number 49 and their pivotal plays / moments in Eagles history, or have banners with the number and list names under it. Unless we crack into triple digits, eventually players will outnumber 0 through 99. For me, I think number 25 needs to be retired for Tommy McDonald and Shady.
And Anthony Tony.
With Tommy getting top billing.
Shady getting top billing.
Recognizing 2 eras / greats with one number. That way, we have to use the numbers, but great players get attached to certain numbers that can be recognized. I like this idea.
I do too.
I kind of like what Dallas does with like the number 88.
Yeah.
It just goes to their best receiver. Because the Eagles are going to be in a really tough spot here very soon.
Yeah.
Because no one can wear 62. Right. They've already shadow retired 9 and 25.
I'm trying to think of more 25s. Charlie Garner.
Mm-hmm.
Dorsey Levens.
What do you think about because it is kind
Lorenzo
of a tricky
Booker.
thing.
Pete Retzlaff.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea a lot. Yeah. I want to make a list of like the top 5 numbers
in Eagles history. Well, that's tricky. How do you?
Yeah, because the best
one
ones,
great player,
nobody would be wearing it
yeah.
But that's interesting. Who was the last good 27?
Malcolm
was 27. I was thinking of Norman Lejeune. I'm bad with numbers.
They gave up Malcolm's really quickly.
They did too.
And they were like really hesitant to.
Was it Zach McPherson?
Zach McPherson still has it.
Yeah.
But they were really hesitant to give out 87 for so long. Like, we love Brent, but
yeah. I wonder why that is. I think Malcolm was so opinionated. I think he did piss people off sometimes.
Well, then he was still playing too, whereas like Brent was retired.
Yeah.
And Brent played his whole career here. And
yeah. Nobody's worn 87 since Selleck?
No, well, now they have, but it took a long time.
But nobody's worn it in a regular season game, right?
I don't know if that's true.
We can look it up.
Love you say we can look it up after like 5 seconds of dead air where I'm clearly looking it up.
Harper LaBelle wore it, 87. No, nobody's worn 87 since Selleck.
Yeah. They've given it out. CJ Uzama has a chance this year. And the last question comes from Dave Dearly. Why is it that Reddick not getting an extension with the Jets doesn't seem to be an issue for him like it was with the Eagles?
Well, he's not showing up at minicamp.
That's the thing. It is an issue.
Yeah.
Like it's, and I'm kind of confused about it because when the Jets traded for Reddick, I figured in a day or two we'll hear about his new contract.
Exactly.
Like, what's Joe Douglas doing?
Yeah, and I saw an interview with Reddick where he said, "Well, if you know, I'll play in a 1-year deal and prove myself again and go sign somewhere." But he's already talking about leaving the Jets. He hasn't even played there. He hasn't even practiced there.
Robert Saleh apparently said he hasn't been in contact with him.
Yeah,
that's not good.
It's not good. If you make that deal with a guy going into his last deal, you got to sign him.
Either you got to sign him or you got to know he's going to show up and play on the deal.
And you got to know that, and then you got to know exactly. I mean, in most cases, you have that deal done as part of the trade.
Exactly. Like think about the AJ Brown. Right? Like you got to have
all at the same time.
You're going to sign him.
Yeah.
Keep him.
Yeah, they messed
or
up.
At least, yeah, it seems very, very odd to me. But we got a bunch of questions. Like I said, that's only a couple of them. We'll cycle through those. But if you want to send one, it's eagle-eyed@NBCUni.com.
Yeah, it's fine.
And also do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button, subscribe there as well. We have practice 2 more days this week, and then it's summer break.
Yeah, we can sing that song from High School Musical, right? What time is it? Summertime. Anticipation.
High School Musical?
You haven't watched High School Musical? Oh, you don't have kids, do you?
No.
Okay. You can get some. And you watch it.
Get some.
Go get some.
All right. That's it. We'll be back with you guys on Tuesday or on Thursday to break down the end of the mandatory camp for Reuben. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. Have a good one.